Accelerate your dealership success. This is the Car Guy Simple Podcast.
Welcome back to CGS, the Car Guy Simple Podcast for the retail automobile business, regardless if you're at a dealership or working for a manufacturer or with any other thing you could possibly think of. Welcome and thanks for joining us again. This thing's really taken off, Josh.
Sure is.
Yeah, it is. And we have a special guest today, and a special guest that certainly means a lot to me on a personal basis, and we've known each other a really long time, which we'll probably get into. I'd like to introduce you to Bill Brunner. Bill is the operations director at the Island Auto Group currently, and we're going to dive into what that looks like through time. But certainly on behalf of everybody here at CGS, Bill, welcome and thank you for being here.
Oh, great. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back in the old spot.
Yes. Powered by PMD, the world famous Boonton, New Jersey. That's right. You thought I was going to say PMD, but here we go. So let's put the pieces together. Tell us about Bill. Let's do the bio thing. That's always fun to start. Go ahead.
So, car business started, in the beginning, back when they had chrome bumpers. As my grandfather used to say, learned the business from the ground up, which meant sweeping the floors. Worked my way through as a mechanic, parts manager, service manager. Eventually let me sell cars. I think they let me sell cars because there's nobody else to take the keys out to the car. So that was my first way of selling. Here, go open that car up and show the customer a car. So learned the business, by doing, which is, not by classroom, but by doing. And, went through that process until eventually I got to be dealer.
And there's a lot along the way. Now, when did your grandfather, it was a Dodge store, right?
Originally, it was a Chrysler Plymouth store.
Chrysler Plymouth, okay.
Right? 1919.
1919.
He started as a garage, right? Dirt floor in Verona, basically servicing New Yorkers that would come to Verona to summer, right? Drop the car off for a couple of months, have it rebuilt, bring it back to the city. So that was his deal. Later on, my grandmother sent a letter to Walter Chrysler, said we'd like a franchise, and they granted him a franchise in much later in 1924. Sorry.
Okay. Much later.
Much
But
later.
compared
Like
to today,
1924,
not
right?
so terrible.
1924.
So officially a Chrysler dealer in 1924. Did you have the ability to work for both your dad and your grandfather?
So I worked with my grandfather when I was very young. He was the master, the teacher, right? So and he taught me, generators and alternators and carburetors and stuff when I was very young. I had no idea what he was showing me. But just by osmosis, you start to pick up that, learn how to use a lathe because we had to turn down armatures. And really from there, I worked for my uncle who ran the shop. And at a very young age, it was like, hey, go do do spark plugs on that car. And they liked me to do the spark plugs on the 6-cylinder 225s, or because I could sit up on the fender and reach in and be able to do the spark plugs. So I was 8, 9 years old.
Right.
Doing that.
So you were changing plugs at 8, 9 years old.
Yeah. By the time I was 14, I could do a tune-up in like 18 minutes, and they had to put the clock on it.
Right.
And real tune-up, which was,
Well, that was plugs and condenser and coil, right?
Points, condenser, plugs, air filter, clean the battery.
Yep.
Set the timing.
Yep. And nothing was pre-gapped. You had to set the plugs, right?
I still keep a gap gauge, a little circle thing on my desk.
But at the same time, you were learning the car business at that level, right? Because we had a guest on recently, a family organization as well, and talked about the different things that you go through, and right, there's 2 types of PhDs. Parent has dealership, right?
Yeah.
So, but nobody threw you the keys. You worked your way up, but at the same time, you focused on your education and some other things. So you have a Juris Doctor, right? You're an attorney, and how many patents have you?
Just one.
Just one. I remember in your office that bronze
little
etching thing, that engraved thing. So what was that about?
So I started as an engineer, right? So as I worked my way through the shop and learned all this technical stuff, my grandfather worked for Thomas Edison in his machine shop.
Okay.
at a young age before
Your grandfather.
before the war. So, but he always had this idea, always had something. He was working on tools and he was making special tools to do this way before special tools, was a thing. So when stuff started to get electronic, there wasn't a lot of stuff out there for diagnosis. So my father and I developed this tool to be a very quick diagnosis with some of the electronic computers that were coming out. And we were able to get a patent on it and put it to market. And by the time we got to market, Snap-on had come in with their, this was before scanners. They came in with their diagnostic tools and that was.
Yeah, but this is real grassroots MacGyver stuff, right? I mean,
stuff.
It's not like you went into the store and go, that's cool, but I'm going to improve this widget. You started with a blank piece of paper with your dad and created
We
this.
started with a problem, right? We had a problem. The problem was that there was the spark control computers for these cars. Every version, there was 100 different versions for a car, depending on what the emission standards had gone through the testing. So, 3 months later, there'd be a different set of computers, right? So we needed something where we could know if it was going to be a pass or fail. Very simple approach to it. If we use this device, we could say, hey, these particular circuits failed. Now you need to go order that specific computer matched to that VIN and use it on that car rather than stocking thousands of computers or hundreds of computers.
Now, you were at one time ASE certified.
Still am. Still ASE master.
Still ASE master.
Yeah.
Fun? Necessity?
It's fun. I work on my own cars.
What do you have?
I have my two favorite cars. I have a 62 Corvette and a 66 Corvette.
Oh, cool. And you turn your own wrench.
Yeah, at my shop, and I spend some time in there, and phone's not ringing. You just get to work on the car, and
it's great to dive in.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's better than golf. I would know that. I would know. Is anyone listening? Yes. My crutch is sometimes my hobbling device at the same time. I mean, you're in there smiling, listening to music, turning a wrench, and I'm out using terrible words like gosh and darn on the golf course.
You have to understand when you work on cars, there are certain times you need to say some things to the car, and right? Because Susan will come out to the shop and she'll say, you don't seem happy if you keep saying those things. I said, no, you have to understand that's the way that bolt will respond if you say certain words. It's just part of the process.
Part of the process. Can I borrow that the next time I smash my thumb with something? It's part of the process. It's part of the process. It's part of the process. So you grew up in the car business that your grandfather started, then your dad, and then you, but you didn't just stop at Dodge when you got the keys, right? What else went on?
So I got when I bought the dealership, my uncle retired, my father retired, my grandfather had passed away sometime sooner. We flipped from Chrysler Plymouth to Dodge. There was 5 dealerships in the market area, multiple Chrysler dealerships, a Jeep dealer, and we kind of reconfigured everything and ended up with 2 dealers in the market. I ended up with Dodge. The other dealer ended up with Chrysler. Plymouth, remember that brand?
Oh, yes.
And Jeep. So, there's 2 is better than 5. So that worked for a while. That was pretty good. We expanded into a used car operation. We had a standalone collection of cars. The first mini superstore.
Yep.
All right. And from there, I went on and bought a Cadillac, Oldsmobile, Pontiac dealerships. 2 other really good brands, right?
But 1 out of 3 ain't bad. 333 will get you to HOF. I'm telling you right now, you hit that.
Right. They were great brands at the time.
Sure. Absolutely.
This was way before stuff went the other way on them. And then we added a gas station. We added another used car store in Bayonne. So it was things were going good.
And then on the business side of the industry, right? You're a past chairman of NJCAR, our state association, the former, what was the long one? New Jersey Automobile Dealers Association. It's now the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers, but they call it NJCAR.
NJADA. So as I was coming in as chairman of NJADA, the vote was going up for NJCAR.
Right.
Right. So I was sitting on the dais, and I think we were in Disneyland, Disney World.
That's where we went to watch you get sworn in.
Right. So we're in Disney World and we're doing this. And so I presented the resolution for NJCAR and asked for a second, and someone seconded the resolution, and that was it. I never called for a vote.
That was it?
That was it. I never called for a vote. Stan Ryman reminded me later on, you never called for the vote. So truly, if we go back, the name has never been changed.
A technicality.
Yeah.
We're car people.
Yeah.
We just go with it.
Right.
That's what we do, right? That's what we do. So we have dealer experience, fixed and variable. I'm jumbling it around, right? Fixed and variable, dealer experience. You did some brokerage for quite some time. You right? You sold your stores.
Sold my stores.
And then you did some brokerage for a number of years, buy, sells, representing buyer or seller?
Both,
Okay.
depending on what was coming to the table.
I've always felt that your specialty in that was not just your network and who to call and how to break the data down, your analysis, figuring out what a dealership or dealership group was worth. Did you develop that evaluation process on your own? Was it collaborative?
No, so when I sold off my dealerships, where real estate became more valuable than franchises at the time. Unfortunately, we did it before all the loss of Oldsmobile had gone away, and they wrote me a check for Oldsmobile, and Pontiac was really great. So before they hit bankruptcy years in there, the real estate was very valuable. We had some of those properties developed, all those properties developed. And Dan Murphy had helped me sell the dealerships, position the dealerships for sale, and actually sold them to real estate developers, but helped me. And I when we were talking about that, I said, Dan, what am I going to do if I sell my dealerships? He said, well, come work for me. So that's interesting. So, Dan sort of walked me through the process of the valuation. And I think we really took it to another level in pulling out not only the prospectus, what does the real estate look like? What is the rent? What is the taxes? But really looking at the financial statement and trying to develop out not the earnings based on what was happening, but what would a good manager, properly capitalized, be able to make this dealership, and then show that to a prospective buyer and say, this is what you could do. And I'm not saying superstar, I'm not saying overcapitalized, but if you had a decent operator, this is what the store could make. This is what the store is worth.
Which is a great approach. When I bought my Chevy dealership back in the day, I didn't have a coach, and nobody wants to buy, right? No one buys a dealership wanting to run it only the way it's run, only achieve the profitability that it's, everybody thinks they can do a better job.
Right.
So you're giving them a path to show them what that looks like.
Right. I always tell the guys who are buying, I said, listen, everybody's smarter than the last guy. Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. So let me just lay this out to you so you understand, because you don't want to buy a dealership and get into trouble the first 6 months. But let me lay it out to you. This guy's been doing this for 20 years, and everybody says, well, he's asleep. He's in Florida. He's not really chasing the business. The guy's been in business for 20 years. He owns a house and a boat in Florida. What did he do wrong? So you think you're smarter than him, and you're going to come in and all of a sudden everything's going to change? I think you need to take a deeper look at this, right? And be very, very certain of the way that you're rolling out your prospectus. Everybody likes to say, I'm going to say, well, okay, they're selling 100 cars. We're going to sell 200. Okay.
And there's been times, right? You've hauled us in at PMD and me and the rest of the team, right? And put together what that looks like. You do the financial analysis and things move on. There's been times where we got the nod to produce the marketing side of this conversation, right? To be able to go, okay, here's your brand and here's your structure, and then roll it out. Do you see those two things being necessary in total before you buy a store, or is that something that kind of just happens?
You better know you better know everything, right? You better know what's going on, because if you can't market the right way, if you can't afford the marketing, right? If you can't afford the marketing, it's all a bunch of numbers. How many leads can you drive in? How many appointments you can make out of those leads? How many can you sell, right? So what can you influence? If you're a good operator, can you influence the closing ratio? Can you influence the appointments that are made from the BDC? But you need help to drive the leads.
Right.
Like, who's coming in the door? What does that mean? Walk-ins or internet leads or phone calls? Right. You need help to do that. And I always think back when we first started working together, and you were doing recruiting and training for my group many, many years ago, that you started to help me with our advertising at the time, and our advertising agent would come in, and we had a great month. Hey guys, great month. What do you want to do this month? And it was like, I don't know. What do you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
That's right.
Is to not only to tell me what to do, but to help execute it. Right. This is everything. Everybody can have a great plan, but if you don't execute it, right? And I see this, a lot of agencies today. We're going to spend X dollars in Google. We're going to spend X dollars in here, and then we're gonna have an offer. Whatever the factory offer is.
Yep.
But by the time that factory offer hits the Google people, it's 15th of the month because nobody's executing. Nobody's executing on the marketing side, and the dealership people are, they got people in front of them. They're trying to sell a car now, so they're not focused on getting those payments and those markets, and that's got to get to the manufacturer to make sure that it's compliant. It takes 2 days for that to happen, and there's a mistake, and another 2 days, all of a sudden it's 15th of the month.
Well, not all agencies do that though. There's this one, the one in Boonton, New Jersey that I keep hearing about that's actually powering this podcast. Hello? Is this thing on? Hello? Is this thing on? We have a break coming in a couple of minutes. I want to take what you just said about valuation stuff just out for another minute or two. In your current position as the operations director for the Island Auto Group, they're looking to add stores. Are you part of that team that's doing evaluations?
No.
Okay. If they ask you, you're willing to give an opinion?
Of course. They have a great team.
How many total stores?
Well, I have 9 stores on the island.
Okay.
Right. They have
Staten Island.
Yeah, in Staten Island. They have some other stores in the surrounding area.
So after the break, we'll get into a little bit of that, a little more about the difference between rural and urban, and the special language that's used when people cut somebody off in an urban environment, and all that fun stuff, right? The most important thing that I think you bring to any conversation, right, is your personal background, your professional background. We even did business together here at PMD for a while before you just insisted on going back to retail. It's like Godfather 3. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me right back in. So did you find that transitioning out of retail and back into retail was challenging? Did you like it? Did it help you?
Well, it was interesting because when I was here as an agent, right, and I had, and it certainly added to my portfolio because dealing with 6-7 dealerships at a time and being in that store, the way that PMD does things, being in that store once a week and being part of that team, which is a little different than most marketing places. So when I was in the dealership, interacting with the general manager, interacting with the sales manager, interacting with the fixed ops director, in not only with their marketing efforts, but what they were doing downstream.
Right.
Like, how can I help you downstream, or what's happening downstream so we can help you upstream to at the top of the funnel to help you drive stuff. Right. So that transition from PMD into the retail business was really easy because I was there, all the time. So it was no big deal. It was just moving my office for the most part.
So it gave you more. I mean, when I first bought my Chevy store, and you know this story, right? I went through 5 agencies, the first year that I was a dealer. So we all suffered from this frustration of, what do you want to do? How about pay my mortgage? How about keep my house? How about sell cars? This made you more prepared when you re-entered.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because you when you left PMD after almost a decade, right, as our VP, he does it all the time. He wasn't just an agent, secret agent man. No, you were our VP, right? And you went back to retail in one of the largest Chevy dealerships in, certainly, arguably, the Northeast, maybe even in the top 10 in the country, volume-wise, where you got it to?
Somewhere around there.
And was able to orchestrate how long were you there for?
I was probably there 10 years.
And then you actually helped position the store
for sale.
Not a lot of employees would do that.
Yeah.
You positioned it for sale, and the gentleman who's a friend of ours, right? He was able to retire and create a legacy play for his family, and you were you played a great role in that. And so congrats on not being
He
selfish.
gave me a great opportunity to be there. We had a great run for 10 years. So helping him do that, and that's part of my success was making that happen.
Well, so one final fun thing before we break. So I still remember, I get a phone call from the owner, and he says to me, I need to talk to you. And he was a very righteous man, very proper. And I always applauded Ron for the way he lived his life. I think if everybody did that, if we just can be fair and decent, we're golden. So moving on, I go see him. Let's close the door. I need to talk to you. I'm like, oh, goody. This is going to hurt. So I close the door. He goes, sit down. He goes, everything's okay. I need your blessing. You're naming your child after me? Like, right? And he says, well, you were kind enough to let Bill get involved in our fixed ops because he and I didn't have the time. So you jumped in and took care of the fixed ops. And we've had discussions, and he really wants to get back into retail. And and his general manager had retired to Florida at that point. And he said, can I have if you tell me no, I'm good. Can I have your blessing, please, to bring Bill on? And he's going to leave PMD. When can you take him? No, I didn't say that.
That box was all there on the next day.
Yeah. So I remember that. And then I remember you took me out to lunch and you're like, so you talked to Ron? Dude, I'm not going to. We used to deliver parts to each other's parents' dealerships when we were 17. We're the same age. I think I maybe got you by a couple.
Actually, I think it's the other way around.
A couple of hours.
I think it's the other way.
But that's the funniest thing. I mean, he laughed. I said, yeah, I'm going to take him. Does he need a box?
Yeah.
Right? Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to get into more specific stuff, some legal, some marketplace, some thoughts, Bill's final thought, all that fun stuff. We'll be right back. Thank you.
This podcast is powered by PMD. Our full-service ad agency specializes in providing creative solutions for new car dealerships looking to sell more vehicles, increase service numbers, and promote their brand image more effectively. We use our experience in television, OTT, digital, social media, and more to anticipate challenges and find effective market-dominating solutions so that our dealership partners can thrive in an ever-changing landscape. You can learn more at pmdusa.com.
Welcome back to CGS, the Car Guy Simple podcast for everybody in the automobile business. Let's continue the conversation, shall we, Bill?
Sounds good.
I like it. This will be not the rapid fire segment, but I want to get through a number of things because there's so much we can talk about, which means that I have to get you back in here for another episode down the road, right? Let's move from everything that you've experienced in your life so far to where you see from a legal issues perspective in the retail car business. It could be local, national. How do you see things now? And if you had that crystal ball that still could be plugged into the wall and light up, what do you think it would tell you if you were able to pull that off down the road? From a legal perspective, what do you see on any point in the car business for anything?
We still have regulations, right? And it's something that we've lived with, for many, many years. And my father used to tell me back in the many, many years ago, says, this business is so hard today. There's just so many regulations. And if he knew what was going on today, with the amount of regulations and and what we need to do to comply with that. Right. And it's important. I mean, there's a lot of important stuff. And we've got, things in the finance office, things in the service department. How are we protecting ourselves by being ahead of those compliance and being ahead of those issues, making sure our policies and our processes meet our standards of the way we want our customers taken care of, but also protect us, right? We know if we take care of our customers, we're protected. But how do we take care of this? Now we have something new in the room with AI, right? So AI is everywhere, right? Even though it's deciding what issues happen on the phone, and it's directing those issues to managers. And then again, it comes back to execution again. What is the manager doing when he gets that alert that comes from an AI?
Right.
And now we're talking about, phone calls that are coming in or leads that are coming into the BDC, and AI is going to answer those questions. And what does that mean? What does it mean? Is it
That's a very, very good point. So all of that, plus FTC and state regs and all the other motor vehicle laws and banking laws and all this stuff, Do you feel that somebody has to be self-taught, or is there some type of internal training that you insist on? How do you work that?
Yeah, I think, there are now organizations that are just out there that help you with your compliance. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's a good investment to have that. And certainly have the associations,
Right.
the
Right.
state associations and NADA
Right.
that have just plenty of information
Right.
and training. So I would say you have to be careful where you go, right? You need a lot of experts, but you need to know which expert is the expert.
Well, you actually did that. I remember a huge group
Yeah.
that we represented
Right.
when we were both working here at PMD, and you put together a binder,
Right.
and we had a meeting, right, where the owner of this aggressive group put every GM in the conference room, and you spent the day going over this
Right.
with
I
them.
remember at the time we also shared with other agencies.
Yes.
Right. So we had invited other agencies to come in
Right.
and other vendors to come in.
That's right.
So end user vendors. And we presented, it was in New York, so it was a little different than New Jersey. New Jersey's pretty clean cut.
That's right.
We have a regulation that covers everything from start to finish on our advertising.
Right.
Right. New York, you point to different directions. It's either the attorney general's or it's a federal guide, whatever it is. So you have to blend all this together to come out with, what do we do?
Right.
Right. How do I know what to do? And I remember during that meeting where we had other agencies going, well, we don't do that, or we don't even know what you're talking about. And then we had GMs going, yeah, but I do it this way, and it had to do with various fees and how you advertise and whether, right down to destination fees. Well, we don't advertise destination fee, right? This goes back to 101 in advertising. Yeah, you do.
That's correct.
If you want to be right. So you definitely don't want the attorney general coming in and to do that. And listen, above all other things in compliance, what's ruling your business today is Google, your Google score, right? So, and if you follow the rules and you follow the guidelines to be compliant, you're not going to run astray with those kind of scores. But if you don't, and people start putting up stuff about how you're hitting them for fees that aren't there, that's a problem.
That's right. That's right. So you're okay with tapping an outside resource to come in and work with your people for legal and other high altitude things so that you're not the only expert.
Yeah.
Am I
and
good so far?
Yeah, because I think it's a good idea to
Okay.
have second set eyes too,
I
right?
perfectly agree with
Right.
that, 100%. Now let's take training in just a little bit of a different direction. 'Cause we were talking about this at the break off camera for a few minutes, right? So do you like forget legal and stuff for just a minute. Don't completely forget it. Okay. And let's talk about sales and BDC training and service advisor training. And do you like the train the trainer model once the manager is up to speed, or do you like somebody coming in once a month or you're blending? How do you see
Yeah,
training?
so it's a blend, but the best people to train our people are the people that work there,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So our
Yep.
GMs and our GSMs are the best people to train our salespeople. They're there every day. They're the experts. I do believe they need to be properly trained. So it's either they were trained properly at the organization they were in,
Yes. Yes.
or maybe we do need a little refresher. We need somebody to come in, like a Tom Stucker, right? Who I'm training from him that I had a long time ago.
He's still a fireball.
A long time ago. Back
He's
when we had-
appeared here, and
right.
poor Dean's ears were probably
Right.
bleeding with him
Right.
pounding on the
But-
desk, but he gets his point
But
across.
I will tell you, when I am training phone people, I still talk to what I learned from Tom
Yeah.
decades ago.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. I think that one of the things that happens when you have outside trainers come in, they come in on Tuesday, and of course on Tuesday everybody's too busy, so only 4 people get to visit with him, and they're only there because they were told to be there, and then they're not paying attention. They're on this, and it's all lost, right? Rather than our managers having a consistent approach to training, disciplined approach to training, so that our people get to be better. And then
Do
when they are better,
understand what they're training at that point because they're experts at desking or whatever
right,
it
but
is?
if you're desking deals every day, you're
Right.
and you're desking this brand.
Right.
You are the best at desking the brand. You are the best. We expect you to be the best in our organization. So you are the best. You are the best person then to go and train our new recruits and our old our legacy salespeople to stay on top of whatever changes are happening.
So fair enough. Let's just move the ship a little bit and set a new course. Just briefly talk about your visions and your opinions of culture building versus expectations, right? You're a culture guy, like most successful businessmen. How do cultural stuff, right? How does culture in an organization sync up with expectations? How does it work? What do you look for? And how successful is it when it really hits on all cylinders?
Yeah, it's about an 800-page volume right there.
There it is.
Right. I'm very fortunate to work for the people I work for now. The owners believe in what they say in terms of taking care of the customer and our culture.
Right.
So, the culture's there. Now, how do we take it from that ownership level and from the VP level and from the director's level where I am and get that done to everybody down the line where they believe that we want to take care of the customer and that, we believe in our people. We believe in the training. We want, and that's, that's sort of an evolution.
It is.
It's constant.
It is.
You
Is
can't
it
end
inclusive or is it a dictatorship? A dictatorship of this is what you do.
Yeah, I mean that's
here's a box.
that's why that's why we talk about culture in the car business so much, because it's been so much a dictatorship.
Yep.
Is when CSI came and goes, well, you got to get good CSI. Okay, well, how do we get the good CSI? Well, look, the dealer says get good CSI because I'm getting paid on it, and then the salesperson up front is cheating on the CSI survey. Right.
So
okay, you got a good score, you got paid on it, but do we build a culture in between that is sustainable? Right. So when we have an organization that I'm fortunate enough to work for that believes it all the way through, and that salesperson knows that they need to take care of the customer because everybody up the line is going to have their back if they made a decision.
But that's not a new concept. I remember that book from Carl Sewell back when he was a Cadillac dealer before he blew up, right?
Customers for life.
Customer for life. And he talked about that moment of truth between, the time period between the over the curb, the car is delivered, and the life of the service relationship in the next vehicle. So that book's been out since the 70s?
Right. So I was on dealer council with Carl. Cadillac dealer, National Dealer Council with Carl.
You're too young for that.
I asked Carl if I could visit his dealership, and he invited me to go visit his dealership in Dallas. And I went to visit, and he said, just meet the GM. He'll give you a tour. Well, I went to the GM. He goes, I was greeted. I'm sorry, I don't have time to do this today. I'm going to give you to John. He's a finance manager, and he's going to give you the tour. And John gave me this tour of the entire dealership, right through the service department. He spent 20 minutes with me talking about the physical plant itself, but about the culture of the organization. And how great it was. And I'm like, how did this guy, this guy's a finance manager and he's talking about everything else that's going on in the dealership. That showed me true culture where that guy believed that was important to the group. And that's the way they treat their customers. The stuff I saw there was amazing.
I got to give you a lot of credit right now. It's no surprise that you, at one time, it was embarrassed you when you were younger, that you were touring the world, racing bicycles and winning at a world-class professional level. You just got through that entire thought with a helicopter flying over the head of this building, which had to go in the microphone. But I'm like, I can't stop this guy. You're bolted in. You're that passionate about this.
Yeah, that's it. It's true.
So, okay, having said that, how do you train people to look at culture of a business and identify, is it working, not working, who needs help, who doesn't? What are the metrics that you use, right? Because David Berger, in God we trust, all others bring data.
Yeah, I mean, data is so important, right? In everything that we do. And because, data speaks the truth. Use the right data. So it's, when you're training people, we're talking about closing ratio. It's a very simple thing. What's our closing ratio? If our closing ratio is below the line, let's go back and diagnose it. Let's go back and talk about it. Let's not beat up the desk manager because his closing ratio is on. Well, let's go find out what's going on here. Well, maybe the data's wrong, right? Why is his closing ratio wrong? His closing ratio is right. Our data's wrong.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't understand the closing process. Okay, whose fault is that? That's my fault. We talk about 100% accountability. I think this is one of the things that we gain great culture from. If the salesperson in my organization, if the salesperson's closing ratio is bad, it's my fault. I don't even know the guy's name, and I should, right? I should know his name. Why is it my fault? Well, because I didn't make sure that the sales manager was trained properly, and he didn't train the salesperson. So 100% accountability, whatever it is, we take responsibility for that problem.
There's no ego in that statement at all.
And I'll tell you something else in terms of culture. And I walk into the dealership and I greet somebody that I don't know. I said, good morning to everybody. And when I first started at various places that I started at, and I greet the guys in the back, maybe, and they're like, head down, whatever.
Sure.
A week goes by and all of a sudden they're saying good morning to me. Right. And now I can have a conversation with them. Hey, what's going on? What's saying? Everything's great except this water is leaking on my bay all day. Okay, great. Let's fix it. That's culture change.
We still see, and I'm hoping that you agree that you see it as well, but we see a lot of people that are hired into our industry, fixed or variable, doesn't matter. They're hired. And you come back a short time later and what happened to Bob? Where's Bob? Oh, Bob was a mishire. It didn't work. Right. Now, you've always been an advocate of top grading.
Right.
Can you give me the 90-second definition of how you see top grading and why you're looking to find the best person that's not necessarily the best person for the job they're applying for, and why it matters within a culture to hire that way?
Well, you'll find good people. The old way we used to, you can use a phone now, but we used to the mirror test. Right? Show the mirror test.
Yep.
Breathe on the mirror. If there's a breath there, we're going to hire him because he's available and we need somebody. So now when we start talking about let's grade him, let's set up some objective standards of why we're hiring this person and what are those? What's important to us? We want to make sure the person's intelligent.
Right.
That there's a little bit of creativity and curiosity too, and he's got a great work ethic. How do you tell that in an interview? You ask the right kind of questions. You do the background check.
Right.
You kind of find out what he does in other areas of his life, and you'll find out some of these things. And it's
so it's not always hiring, right? 'Cause top grading says the best candidate in the pool of candidates that applied for that specific job. And then until the anomaly walks through the door and would make such a better service advisor than a BDC person, and you have to have the ability to pivot and see that
and move them somewhere else,
and potentially take somebody from that department who's a shining star with something else and move the pieces. You're okay with that?
Absolutely, right. We hire the right people, then we'll find the right seat for them.
Have you seen lower turnover because our industry, unfortunately, at the retail level suffers from time to time with turnover issues? Do you see turnover going down when you do those types of things?
Absolutely. You build a culture and people want to work for you.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. Yep. Okay. All right. How much different is it? Because there always seems to be that wall, and I've never understood this. Do you see it any differently as soon as you cross over into fixed ops, right? Parts, service, body shop stuff. How does the management of fixed ops change, in your opinion?
Well, I don't think it does. Okay.
Why do you say
I don't
that?
think you see that in the industry, right? You see,
No, you don't.
You see the service department as something else, right? In another place. And we don't necessarily talk about the same kind of objective standards that we do in the sales department, right? We don't talk about those kind of numbers the same way, right? In the service department, we have the same thing. At the end of the day, we have a closing ratio on a recommended service.
Correct.
Are we managing that? And not only not looking at it, right? We got great things. We can look at the numbers now, but now are we managing that? If we have a low closing ratio, are we working with that service advisor who's a salesperson to give them the skills to be able to show the customer that they need this as a safety or maintenance concern for their car? Or are we just saying, oh, you didn't sell anybody, let me hire somebody else? Right.
Correct. So both sets of people are still people. They just have different goals and objectives, right?
Exactly.
Do you see, you taught me, I remember that one time, well, every once in a while, I would walk into your office back in the day and you'd wing a book at me. One in particular that's actually mandatory reading here is the balanced scorecard.
Right.
Right. It's an old Harvard thing, and people have played with this different. Do you still like those types of measuring devices that that an employee could buy into and see how they're performing against a traffic light system or whatever the scorecard is?
It's called alignment, right? Alignment from top to bottom. What is
Yep.
the ownership's vision, and are
Sure.
we delivering that same vision down to the bottom? So whether it's OKR, if it's objectives and key results, or a balanced scorecard or a report card, whatever it is, something that can communicate.
Okay.
That information can be a spreadsheet.
So let's take this out just a little bit. I want to put you in a scenario, and I want to see you. Please help me understand. Help all of us, not just me. How theory of constraints plays a role in this, right? Because define it and then plug it into the scenario, and then tell me how potentially a balanced scorecard or some type of motivational way to measure performance could help. Since we were on fixed ops, let's just do that, right? Customer comes in for their oil change, and they are called an hour later and said, that you need 2 front tires, and instead of a pad slap, we really need to do the brakes, and here's why. And the customer blows wide open because the vehicle only has 35,000 miles on it. Is there a constraint that happened in communication? How do you define that, and what works it out?
So I think we start with basically where we want to be in the service department, and this is the sales department too. But for somebody to do business with us in the service department, they need to trust us, they need to see value with us, and they need to have the time to do it. So trust, value, and time. So in this case, you didn't touch on time, but you did talk about trust.
Yes.
Right? And because you mentioned price.
I did not.
Right? You only said it was, oh my gosh, I blew up because you told me I need this and this. They don't trust us. So how do we gain trust with our customer? Back when I started, it was Uncle Bob on the phone. And right. And we had, now you have X time, you have all these great tools and stuff like that for doing multi-point inspections, right? I grew up with a multi-point inspection. Harry, raise the car up, pull the wheels off. Uncle Bob walks around the car and decides the car needs front brakes, doesn't need rear brakes, and there's got rear shock leaking on the right side, so we want to replace both. Now, when he communicates with that customer, he's able to communicate, I looked at the car, and this is what I see it needs. Customers trusted him, right? And now when he throws the value proposition in, I can take care of all this for you for X dollars, and it was a reasonable and fair price, still allowing us to make money. He added the value, and then the time says, I can finish this by 5 o'clock tonight, and he satisfied the time. Right. Today we have an MPI system, whoever it is, and our trust comes from taking photographs or videos, right? So we have these tools. Do we take the photographs right? Do we take the videos? Are we able to communicate that? The advisor's not looking at the car anymore. He's looking at the videos. Now, is the advisor able to communicate with the customer? This is what my technician saw. I sent you the video he sent you. Here's the pictures of the pads. How do you not trust this? I'm showing you a gauge that shows it needs new brakes. Now I've got to add the value. I've got to be competitively priced. It's up to us to be able to set those prices. Yep. And then I have to close with a time constraint, something to do with time. Can't get that done today. I can get it done tomorrow. Don't have the parts available. I won't get it done for a week, but I can offer you a loaner car or I can pick
expectations.
You up, right?
Yep.
So once we satisfy that, then you're there.
So now let's take that service advisor from a compensation identifier, yardstick, whatever you want. If we took a scorecard or some type of balanced approach, what would be the metrics you would say are apropos to that service advisor for a month's worth of business? What are the things? Is there 3 things, 5 things, 2 things?
What I would measure on an advisor,
yes,
I would be looking to make sure that he's got 100% of those cars that came across our door, inspected. Right? Everybody gets an inspection. They go, well, it's only at 3,000 miles. I don't care. We do our business in Staten Island, and there's a lot of potholes out there, and you could blow out a tire or get a bubble on a tire, and that could be a problem for us. So we want to inspect every car. We want a percentage of those cars to have recommendations. The number depends on how many miles the car is on, and higher miles cars are likely to have higher recommendations, but we can say it's 50% across the board. 50% of the cars in the portfolio should have some recommendation. Cabin air filter, right? Cabin air filter, brakes, and then closing ratio. Out of that 50%, how many are actually buying from us? And that number we'd put at 50% as well.
So you're looking for a more diverse compensation package based on certain performance metrics. Let's make it even more blunt. We're car people. Let's keep it just simple, right? That's what we do, right? If we tie a compensation plan to metrics that they're in control, the employee, that specific employee is in control of, is that more motivational to them and the company to be able to measure and redeploy training and so on?
Maybe, right? Maybe. It can be complicated, right? So we compensate basically on gross anywhere in the car business. It's always been like that, right? How much money can you make? Can you add successfully compensation for other matrices? Sometimes you can, sometimes you don't need to. As long as we tell the advisor in this case where they are, what the standard is, they are likely to work towards that, and we're likely to train them. It's like Henry Ford said, if you keep your eye on it, don't expect what you don't inspect.
That's correct. Yep, that's fine. We're running short, so I'm just got all of the things that I've got written down here. There's one I want to leave everybody with, and certainly please come back and join us again because there's so many more things to dive into in that 8,000 page manuscript, right? Marketplace. The general marketplace, right? Because everybody's talking about SAR and adjustments and pony rides and cotton candy. How do you see the marketplace now? Where do you see it headed? Any insights, any opinions about anything that ties back to the term marketplace?
Well, we jump in and the gorilla in the room again is AI and how AI is impacting employment.
Yes.
Right.
Sure.
We saw with Amazon, and Amazon had said a number of months ago that, hey, your job may be impacted by AI in the future. And now they have some layoffs. And I think there was a story the other day that said in other major shifts in industry have always brought job shifts, right? The internet hit, there was a job shift. When the Iron Age hit, there was a job shift, right? Yeah. But where's the job shift in AI? Where are those jobs being replaced? So that's going to impact on the marketplace. And then we have this, we have a micro marketplace that's happening right now because you have the news on. 24/7, we have lots of things that people are watching the news and holding off from investing in things, buying a new car for us, because they don't know. And then if you're not employed right now because you're laid off from the government, what happens with that? How does that happen? Now we know historically that jobs like that come back and that money that comes back will come back into the marketplace, right? So those short-term swings and where we lose sales this month will make up next month. Though at the end of the year, it'll be the same. But now we start looking from year to year. How does this play out? And there's a lot of stuff going. It's
Final question for marketing. Well, marketplace lean with a marketing lean. You've always been an advocate, memory serves, annual plans of media spends and targeting what month we're going to say what. Do you find that still able to be accomplished, or have you boil it down to a quarter or a month at a time?
Well, relentless pursuit of short-term goals, right?
Relentless pursuit of short-term goals. Maybe write that down.
Let's look at where we're going. What are we doing now? But yes, we need to have that big number put together for the year in terms of a marketing budget.
Sure.
Got to look at it every month. We got to make adjustments. We don't have the inventory, so we've got to adjust. The market's gotten away for us. Let's not spend a ton of money. The market's going the wrong way. We're not chasing the market. Let's put that back in the budget for going future. For when that pent-up demand comes back, we want our share of that pent-up demand. So yes, we want to have an annual budget where the placement's going to be, and then we want to adjust to it on a monthly basis, depending on what's going on.
That's how we see it. That's how we always did it together and still do it. I'm Joe Levine, and I approve this message. Bill, I hate to do this to you. We're out of time for this particular pod. Please consider coming back, and we'd love to see you. Being that we don't allow you to pay us to be here, and we don't pay talent, we're agnostic to that, as I've said before. So thank you again. Bill Brunner, world-class cycler, grandfather. You still playing ice hockey?
Yeah, I played last night in my mind watching the Devils.
Well, you can't win them all, and they'll try, certainly. Successful businessman, attorney, buy-sell guru. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have your kind of horsepower sitting here. And on a personal basis, it's wonderful to have you as a friend in my corner as well.
Great. Well, thanks for having me.
All right.
Good.
All right. That's everything that we've got today. Stay tuned for more episodes and keep the mailbag stuff coming, because we will do those from time to time where Brendan, right? Brendan, you fire out the questions. Is that how we're doing this?
I've got plenty more coming your way.
Okay, cool. So we'll do those Q&A things as well. As always, thank you. Thank you, Bill Brunner. Thank you, audience. CGS, the Car Guy Simple podcast for everybody in the automobile business. Thank you again. And it's all about the you. As always, you know I had to get it in there, Bill. You know I had to get it in there. Oh, yes. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and at CarGuySimple.com to learn more and see behind-the-scenes action. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send Joe an email at joe@CarGuySimple.com. This is the Car Guy Simple podcast. See you next time.